Hola, chaps. Let's learn. Hola, chaps. Mr. Turek here. There's a chemistry activity called Seashell Activity, and I'm going to try to work through it right now. So it says you need the following materials. You need seashell. Well, my wife found a whole collection of them, and I've gathered up a small pile of seashells. A beaker, so I've got a beaker. Some vinegar, so we have some vinegar available. And for the electronic balance, I have a kitchen scale. Now, the kitchen scale only measures down to the nearest gram, whereas if we were at school, we could use an electronic balance that goes much more precise. So for that reason, I'm choosing to use more than just one seashell for this activity. I'm going to use a pile of them and rack it up to a number of grams. Alright, so step one is they want us to record the initial mass of the seashell. So turning on the electronic balance, reading it, it says 0 grams. I'm now going to take the entire pile of seashells There's the entire collection of seashells, and it records 36 grams. Well, 37 grams. Alright, so I have 37 grams of seashells. In the original instructions, it says step 2 is gently place the seashell into the vinegar solution. However, I've been thinking it'd be interesting, since a prediction here is that it's going to be releasing carbon dioxide. To me, that suggests that as the reaction takes place, the mass should reduce as the carbon dioxide goes off. So we're going to attempt to do that, turning on the electronic balance, making sure it's zeroed. And now here's the mass of the empty beaker sitting on the electronic balance. It reads 98 grams. We're going to take some vinegar and pour it into the beaker, maybe up to like about 100 milliliter mark or higher.
Probably just 100.
Okay, 100 and some odd. Okay. So right now it reads the new mass of the beaker and the vinegar is 264 grams. Next, we're going to take the seashells and gently lower them into the vinegar in the beaker. So as each one goes in, of course, the mass total goes up. And we saw 37 grams, so when we add that to the mass of the beaker and the vinegar, it should work out to a total that matches the sum. As the seashells are added to the beaker, right away you can see that it is foaming. But first, notice that the total is reading 300 grams. Now my prediction is, over the next 5 to 8 minutes, it's going to reduce in mass. In fact, there it is already. You see it's gone down by 1 gram. Well, maybe, because of the wind. I'm gonna set a timer for 7 minutes. Got it. So got a timer started. It's gonna count down for 7 minutes. Meanwhile, there's clear evidence that a reaction is taking place. You can see there's all kinds of foaming taking place, bubbling, fizzing, definite evidence of a chemical reaction. So for me, the interesting part will be, will the total mass reduce over the course of the next 6 or so minutes? In the first half minute, we're not seeing any significant reduction in mass. I'm predicting that the carbon dioxide, once it's released, is going to just leave the beaker completely. Alright, so we'll come back to this in about 6 minutes.
Do you need a filter?
We still have nearly a minute left to go on the timer, but I wanted to share with you that it's bubbling away, it's fizzing, it's still energetically carrying out its chemical reaction. Alright, our timer is up, and When we look at the balance, it now reads 298 grams, so that's pretty hard to tell, but I'm of the opinion that 2 grams of carbon dioxide has been released from the seashells and left the container to the open atmosphere. It's still fuming away, and I have one more little demonstration I'd like to do to you. So if I take a burning wood splint and put it over the beaker, you can see that it's not really doing much of anything. Okay, so I'm claiming that's evidence that it's not oxygen that's being released, but it's only carbon dioxide that's being released. Okay, and then set it back over it for a moment, and it's not really reigniting, so carbon dioxide. Okay, so even in all that amount of time, it's still reacting, but the lab suggested that we only do this for 5 to 8 minutes. Really, you could continue doing this until you see evidence that the reaction has gone more or less to completion. But we're going to stop this now, and the procedure is we're going to take the seashells and remove them from the vinegar and then douse them in some water so that stops the chemical reaction for sure.
I'm going to pour this.
Alright, so that'll dilute the vinegar so much that the chemical reaction effectively stops. And now the next step is to take the seashells out of the water, and we're going to set them on this nice butterfly drying towel. This is a beautifully warm afternoon, so it probably won't take very long for these seashells to air dry. Meanwhile, they don't feel like they've decomposed severely. They feel pretty intact compared to how they were before this experiment began. So I'm guessing that not much mass has changed, but once these have dried, we'll put the entire collection of seashells back onto the balance one last time, and that'll give us the final mass of the seashells. You'll then have all the data that you need to complete the activity. Time has passed. It's been a beautiful, warm, dry, sunny day out here, and so we've had the seashells in the sunshine and been flipping them over. Linda's opinion is that they are definitely softer shelled now. And so now for the final step, I've turned on the balance one last time, I've zeroed it, and now we're going to take all of the seashells and put them on the balance and see what the total mass is now that they have undergone a chemical reaction to remove some of the calcium carbonate. And so the answer is 34 grams. I have a couple of closing comments to make about this experiment if you try it at home. First, it would help the experiment if you were to stir the seashells while they're in the vinegar solution. That would act like a catalyst that would speed up the rate at which the reaction takes place. Secondly, at the end of 7 minutes, there was still strong evidence that the reaction was taking place. So you could extend the time that you're carrying out the reaction for much longer, and once you see that the rate of bubbling and fizzing slows down considerably, then end the experiment at that point, and you might get much greater amount of mass being converted to carbon dioxide.
Talk about the surface area.
One issue here that I had is I used a whole collection of these different seashells, and because they're piled up on top of each other in that small beaker, the vinegar didn't have as good access to the entire surface area. So stirring it would have helped. Using fewer seashells than I'd used might have helped, but that would have been at the expense of the precision of measuring the total mass. Since my kitchen scale is only good to the nearest gram, I had to use multiple seashells to get us above a single significant digit of measurement accuracy. Alright, that concludes this activity.